Welcome to NASPA Tonight. My name is Josh Greenway. I'm the host of NASPA Tonight, and I am lucky enough to be joined by the lovely and talented Mad Palazzo. Mad, how are you tonight?
I am great, and thank you for having me on here. This is awesome.
Please.
I finally got to see what you do.
That's right. We've been waiting months for you to appear on the show. So we've got a big show tonight. We're going to be covering a bunch of different topics. We're going to be doing an interview with Mad and talking to her about her experience in Scrabble and with NASPA. You know where all the bodies are buried.
That's right.
But first, we're going to cover some headlines. So let's get right into that. There were some different tournaments that went on this weekend. Probably the biggest one was in Sacramento, California. And it's always interesting to see what goes on out in the West Coast because that tends to be a somewhat underrepresented area of Scrabble. But here we go. Here are our winners. I know Tom Chang has joined the broadcast tonight. Hi, Tom. He hits a new peak rating in NWLA. We've got Anae Bloom, who wins her division, and we've got Grace Keller, who wins her Division C.
Congratulations to all of them. And they had a great tournament, didn't they?
That's right. Well, hey, listen, most of these people, like I know Ine, Tom and I are Facebook friends, but I haven't met most of the people who are out there in California because how often do we get out to California?
Yeah, a little harder to get out there.
Left versus right coast.
That's right.
They also had a Collins division. So Nick Ball goes 6-0, hits 1941.
Wow.
He's a guy who's been over 2,000, I think, once, but I'm sure he's working on
getting there.
Over that number again. We also had a tournament more locally. So this is what happened in Mississauga. Mississauga is a suburb of Toronto where we're both from.
That's right.
Do you know these two gentlemen?
Oh, of course I do. Ari and Abdul, awesome. I understand that they did well. That's a Collins tournament that they have, right? Through, Jason, yeah.
That's right. So we have Collins A, and Ari cleaned up there, hitting 1970.
Wow.
Which is close to a peak for him. He hasn't hit 2,000 yet. And we have Abdul going 5-1. He's been on a hot streak. He hits a new peak at that point.
He's been doing really well. I've been noticing that. Watch out for him.
So then we've got out in Durham. This was a tournament run by, I could be wrong. I think this was run by David Leonsky, but maybe I'm getting my weeks mixed up. Anyway, Andy Huang goes in, cleans up. This was I think it was about 14 people in one open division. But he goes 7-1 and achieves a new peak somewhere around 1,700 or high 1,600s, something along those lines. So congratulations to Andy.
That's right. Very good.
Okay. I also want to say hi and thanks to everybody joining. There are a lot of you out there, some of our regulars, and then I think there's some new people that have come on to see you.
Oh, wow.
Like I see Lisa
honored.
Kessler out
hey,
there.
Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Tom, of course, because we talked about covering. But we also got like Jason Ubika and anyway, a whole bunch of people. So thanks everybody for joining. We're going to go on to the next headline now. And this was an interesting one. So this was Jeffrey Pearson. I don't know if that's how you pronounce your last name, Jeffrey, but he has been commenting on various Facebook groups that what he wants to see is the app that you run on your phone, right, and play Scrabble on your phone, which is published by Electronic Arts. They publish the Scrabble app for Hasbro, and he wants to see them get new words.
Well, I don't blame him. I'm playing on Scrabble with Facebook, and I can't use my new words, and I can't practice them. So I agree with you, Jeffrey. Let's get an email out there, and we should really rally for a whole bunch of people to send out an email and see if they'll change it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Now, the history of this has been that Electronic Arts is a big company, right? And they're not going to care that much. But probably Jeffrey is right by making enough noise. Now, the first thing he said was that we should all boycott our Scrabble apps. I don't think anybody would notice that, so I'm not recommending that here.
No.
But we can get in touch with EA. There are a couple of different ways to do that. So let's talk about those ways. I should have set this up a little better. But I am going to call something out because some people did some digging. Did you see that on Facebook today?
I saw some emails and stuff on that. Yep, some texting. But Jeffrey, you're on the
right.
right track. I'm with you on this one. I really am.
So what we have here, and I'm going to call it up in just a second, is this was found by Julia Bogle. So this is the EA site where they take feedback on all of their games. Okay. And this specifically is for Scrabble. So if we go down here, we can see all these topics like what the language setting is. They can't connect to the server. A bunch of stuff like that. So game forfeited me when something, whatever. So one of these down here, if I can find it, talks about the lexicon. We'll just keep scrolling through until we can find it.
Okay. Okay, there's a lot happening here.
Okay, there's a category in here. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's called Updated Dictionary. So what we're going to do is we're going to post a link to this. And then when you go into the updated dictionaries here, it talks about, hey, here's a question for game developers. When are you going to update the dictionaries? There was a new tournament word list that came out in late 2018. For us, it came out in early 2019. But when is it going to, right, it says that, March 1st. When will EA Games be updating their app, right? And then they put in a screenshot or whatever. No one else has commented. Only one person has done this.
Well, then I think we should rally and get a whole bunch of us to do it.
That's right. So that's what I think too. And I thought we would try doing that right here on the show. We'll see how far I can get with it. But let's see. What you have to do is you have to go to this. First of all, why don't I can't post a link now, but I'll post a link later. And the idea is when you go here, if I want to reply to this comment, it says, hey, you've got to create an EA account. So I'm going to try doing that. All right. And let's see what happens here. Well, that all went caps, but that should be fine.
Should be okay.
Okay. Looks like this email's already. Oh, I have an
EA
got
the account. There you go.
Okay. And so let's just see if I can remember what my password is. I have a guess as to what it is.
Come on, cross your fingers. Here we go.
Come on. No, that didn't work. Okay, let's try one more. No, that didn't work either. Okay, so here's what we're going to suggest.
I think you just send it out there.
That could have gone better, but we're gonna keep rolling here. The idea is we're going to post in the link to these broadcasts how you can get to this page, but also you can tweet at them. So this is at EA. So if you're one of these Twitter people on your phone all the time, are you on Twitter?
I'm not a Twitter person. No.
You don't have a Twitter account?
No Twitter account.
So that would probably be an easier thing than trying to get an EA membership, which apparently I did at one time.
I think I might have one too if I remember my password.
There you go. Okay, so anyway, that's the idea behind what we want to do here. So we've got one more headline to cover. This is breaking news, so we put it in red color. This came out just like an hour ago. Let's just do it this way, is Seth Lipkin adds a timer to the Ulu app.
My God, that's going to be awesome, but I don't know. I think I see some problems with it. Unless he's...
So first of all, big shout out to Seth. I know we're covering part of his face in this shot, but we love Seth.
Oh, he's awesome. He's awesome. Yes.
And Ulu is a great product, and he's made it even better because for people that don't have tournament clocks, now you can find one on your phone, and everybody's got a phone.
Of course.
So it makes it easy to play with the timer. Now, what issues do you see with it?
I'm just thinking if it's on your phone and you get a text or a voicemail or a phone call, does it stop the clock? Does it interrupt it, or does it not do anything? And that could be a problem because let's say I was one of these types of people that was looking over your head, behind your head, Josh.
Yes.
Looking at your rack. Come over and I text you what the word is and it pops up.
Right.
That could be a problem.
That would be a problem.
Now
So I would bet that Seth has some kind of solution for
sure
that.
he does.
But it would be good. Like, we're going to have to test this and all that kind of stuff.
course.
But there's been a time in the past when there was a phone app before that had a timer associated with it, and it was considered legal for NASPA play. It was a less preferred clock, which means players can ask for, hey, I've got a regulation clock here.
Right.
Let's play with this one instead of the phone, and that's fine. But in a pinch, it's good.
It
right?
could be good. I mean, that'd be good when you're traveling, let's say, and you don't want to carry a clock around and you still want to play a game.
That's true. That's
So
a good point.
I think there's good pros and cons to it, but I'm sure Seth, being the intelligent person that he is, he probably has come up with something.
There we go.
There
So
you go.
that is the latest news from Ulu and Seth Lipkin Industries. I don't know what he calls his company, or if he even calls it a company. I don't know
Whatever he calls it. I don't
That's
know
right.
either.
But all hail King Seth. If you haven't already joined, I would recommend that you go search the Seth Lipkin fan club on
Of
Facebook
course.
and join that Facebook group. It's certainly not active enough, but it is
It's
a
an
fitting
excellent- definitely.
tribute to a great guy.
Agreed.
Okay.
Very nice.
So those are the headlines for this week. I also wanted to ask Mad some questions because we've got Mad here in studio, and I appreciate you coming to the show. So let's get started. And number one, I want to say to the people, look, we got more and more people showing up. If you love Mad, say hi in the comments. We'll read those out. And so, Mad, let's start from the beginning. This is where every Scrabble interview starts. Look, I did a little bit of cross-table stalking today. All right.
Oh, no.
I know you played your first tournament in 1993.
I was only 16 at the
Exactly.
time.
So tell me about how the hell did you get started in this game in 1993?
Well, to be honest, I started playing Scrabble before that. I was playing Scrabble at work with a couple of ladies. Yeah, lunchtime, you get an hour. We managed to get 2 30-minute games in there, playing two on two.
So there were 4 ladies.
4 ladies.
And this was where? Where were you working?
I used to work at North York Hydro.
North York Hydro.
Young and Finch area, yeah.
So everybody, you got that full hour for lunch.
Full hour at lunch, and we put the game down. We'd rush down to play, and it was a quarter a game. So we're talking big money here.
Like 25 cents
25 cents a game.
Which
that's right.
in 1993 dollars,
Was
that's got to be like 57 cents.
At least that much. So we play, and I thought I was good because whoever was my partner, we always won. Always won.
Oh, it was 2 on 2. There
2
weren't
on 2,
2
no.
different games going
No,
on.
2 on 2.
Oh,
2 on
like
2.
school Scrabble.
Exactly. Thanks. I told you I was only 16 at the time.
By the way, Sharon Jansen and Heidi Robertson love you.
Hello.
And say hello. Okay, so
so-
that's how you got your start. You were playing, you were hustling people at North York
At
Hydro
50 cents an hour there.
at 50 cents an hour
It
to
was
pay for your lunch.
Lots of money. There.
Okay.
So from there, I kept thinking, geez, I wonder if there's any place that you can play in tournaments. I thought.
Yes.
So I finally looked it up and found the club.
That's the Toronto
the
Scrabble Club.
on Earl Bills. Yep.
Yeah, which is like the longest running
club.
Scrabble club and one of
Definitely.
the most attended.
Right.
So you go there and what happens?
So I go there and I think I'm good, and I sit down and I play my 3 games, and I'm like, oh, this is a different game. Totally. I learned a lot, and every time I learned something, I brought it back to my ladies. But then the more I brought back, the less they wanted to play with me. So it became hard to play with people I used to play with.
Right.
So
and that's obviously what happens in a lot of Scrabble stories. Is people start playing, they get a little bit better than their friends. Although it sounds like you guys had a competitive.
We had a
setup.
competitive. It was good until I left.
And then you go to the club and you go, oh my God.
That's exactly
There are
it.
people who really like
Play the game.
they're like 19
They
levels.
had a dictionary. I went and bought a dictionary at Kohl's, and brought it with me and learned the QI and the XI, and it's like, oh my God, all these words, a Q without a U,
Right. Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was amazing. It was amazing. So,
Okay, so you get your feet wet in club.
Yeah.
How soon is it before you start playing tournaments?
Oh, I think within the first year or so.
Okay, gotcha.
I think I started in September in Toronto, but they already had their tournament. So the first tournament I went to was the Brantford
That's
one,
right.
but run by oh my God.
Glenn?
Glenn Dunlop.
Yep.
Yes. I got there and I was like, amazed at all these people in a room, like over 100 people.
Right.
And everybody's so calm. People are knitting, people are talking. Nobody's like trying to focus to play. I'm like, okay, I'm looking at words and I'm trying to, and these people are just very calm and just walking around like it's no big thing. So it was different. And I was a little intimidated because I didn't know. And these people that I don't know who I'm playing with, and, it was all professional and, so it was awesome. I don't think I did well. I might have gone 3 and 4.
I think that's exactly right. So you
4?
know what people remember what their first tournament is.
Sometimes, yeah.
Now, I would say that you have the profile of kind of a classic tournament player, like someone who gets into this game and then just starts hitting it hard, like out on the road, heading to all local tournaments, going further and further away for tournaments. By the way, speaking of distances, Evan says he still wants a ride to club from Michigan.
Okay.
And
I'll
so
be
anyway,
there.
so let's go by the numbers. In basically since '93, so 7, we're talking 25 years, right?
Yeah,
of playing Scrabble.
Yeah.
You've got 323 tournaments played.
Wow. Good
and
for me.
Just over 3,700 games.
Wow.
Which is great. Like I'm in I think 1,500 games or something like that. And I've been doing it for 10 years. So
there you go.
Yeah,
I was so gung-ho at the beginning there. I was going to every tournament I could possibly go to because I loved the socializing, the meeting of the people. It was awesome, and going to different places.
Right. So what, were there cool places that you went to? Like, obviously you went to nationals, and that's a whole nother story. But you also went to tournaments down stateside other than nationals, right?
Yeah. Well, we went. Yes, I did. Albany's one of my favorite ones. Annette runs a great tournament in July, and even her Lake George one. So I went to those for a while. I'm actually going to Albany in July because I can't make the Lake George one, but great places. But all of the tournaments I go to, if it's a place like when I went to Arizona for the nationals, I would add a few more days on. And Lisa Kessler, I don't know if she remembers, with Linda Wise and Diane, we went to the Grand Canyon and we did a little tour for an extra couple of days there, So you make a trip out of it and you get to see places that you might not have gotten to, So
absolutely. So you were saying, the mix of social and then going out and seeing these different places.
Definitely.
I don't know if it wasn't for Scrabble, if I would have ever made it to New Orleans.
I agree. But
I've been there 6 times now.
Isn't it awesome? That's awesome.
After 6 times, it's awesome. But I had to take a break. I had to take a break this last year. Okay. Here's the interesting part.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you remember on this little show called NASPA Tonight, I used to have a co-host.
Yes.
Every week.
Yes.
Young kid, no one knows what happened.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the two of us kind of both agree. We consider ourselves tournament players who don't necessarily go to club, but you're a different type of player. You regularly go to the club. Why is that?
A couple of reasons. One, it's a social aspect. 2, that's how I get my practice playing one-on-one, because playing online sometimes you don't get that feel and you don't have to add, and the words come back to you. There's no challenges, There's no challenge. You play a word, that's not good, it comes back. So I get to go there and I get to see, it's like a family there, to be honest with you. And then really, afterwards we do go for a drink. So a little more socializing, right? But I think it's a great practice tool, and it keeps you on your game, I think. So I do like going. I hate it when I miss it. I do hate it when I miss it. But.
For sure. Other than the summers, you take a break.
I take a break in the summer because at one time we never had official.
Because I ran this summer club
and
for
then
5 years.
I stayed away.
And you never came.
I stayed away. I thought that I would do other things, but I didn't.
So I would go to club more, I think. Jackson, that's the person who used to be the college. Jackson, I think he feels like, he is experiences tournaments now. That's what he does.
That's what he is. Okay.
For me,
so he's sort of a snob to club. Is that what it is? Okay, Jackson, got it.
For me, I would go more often, but I spend 2 nights a week here in the NASPA Tonight studio until midnight or something.
Okay, well, there you go.
Getting ready for the show, post-production, all that kind of stuff.
I think you need to do a little bit of balancing there, Mr. Josh.
That's possible. Okay, so that's club. Now, here's what I want to get into. One of the things that we promoted when we were talking about this is you've been a member of all these different NASPA committees. And because you've been around for 25 years since you were a young lady, you saw the transition from when Scrabble was being run by the NSA and funded directly by Hasbro to NASPA, which is receives limited funding from Hasbro, but is player organized.
Right.
So what can you tell me about that transition? What do you remember about that transition? It was about 10 years ago.
Yeah. So when it was the Nationals, it was different. I mean, when we used to have the tournaments used to be every second year because they couldn't afford, I guess, it more often. But they used to have, I guess it was called like a gala night, and you'd come and you got to meet with people, you get to mingle just before you started playing, sort of a little warm up beforehand.
Are you talking about Nationals?
That was the Nationals, at the Nationals.
The welcome night, whatever they call it.
And I wasn't as involved in the Nationals then because I wasn't part of it. So I didn't know much about how things ran as opposed to now. And then the last year of the Nationals, I actually did work it for the first time.
Yeah, you directed a division.
I directed the bottom division, the fourth division. That's where I met Dave Crook, who thought I was a great director. Thank you, Dave.
Dave was the best.
Yeah, and then they dispersed the Hasbro. They dispersed their.
So NSA was no more.
No more.
There was no more funding
no,
for NSA, and now NASPA comes.
So all of a sudden, in between that, there's a transition period, and I get an email about being on an ad hoc committee, and I'm like, what's this all about? And of course, I called John because he's my go-to person.
John Chu, co-president of NASPA.
And he says, oh, they're putting a committee together because they're going to transition. I said, oh, okay. And we're flown out to Green Park, Greenwood, somewhere out in the States for 2 days
to meet with
John
D. Williams.
And, so we met with them, and they're talking about transition. And I remember that night, Chris and I having a drink and discussing what was talked about.
Chris Cree, co-president of NASPA.
And I said to him, I said, you know what? I think this is going to happen within the next year. And he says, oh, no, another 4 or 5 years. I don't think so. Get a little wager on it. And the next morning, we're at the table, and they're saying, well, we're looking at 1 to 2 years. And I look at Chris. He looks at me. He goes, I said, I told you so. So from there, for some reason, I got out to the ad hoc, which was what we call the steering committee now.
Right, the steering committee.
Yeah,
exactly.
And on the steering committee. And it's a little dormant now. At the time, we were getting together. But I'm still
But I like that you're still listed as part of the steering committee. And it shows that you're one of those people that was in that transition.
From the beginning, yeah.
And obviously, 10 years later, we've got NASPA where it is now.
Yeah.
I tend to think we're still very early in NASPA's journey. Other people have a different view of sort of where things are.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool that you were in the room when those sorts of things were being discussed.
Yeah, it was. It was cool.
Now, shortly after that, NASPA is formed.
Oh, yeah.
And they give you a job. What job do they give you?
They gave me to be chair of the membership committee. And I said, oh, thank you. So I only worked 4 or 5 hours every night, manually inputting all our players' name, information, address, everything. Nothing was automated. Chris Cree would get the check in the mail. He would send me the information and say, okay, this person's paid. And I don't know, it went on for about a year. It's a year. John Chu could probably remember even better because I kept saying, we got to automate this. We got to automate. And I was the only one on the committee. So, so I got to know a lot of names and eventually got faces to those names.
Yeah, well, that's got to be a hell of a transition when that's something that I don't even think about normally. Like the NSA would have had this many people as part of it. And then you've got to get them to come over to NASPA. You've got to upload a new database. You've got to get them to write a check.
Oh, it was crazy.
No wonder you're going to lose some people through the cracks.
Although, we're still good. We've got 4,000 or 5,000 people, members in our database, maybe about 2,000.
Not all of them active.
No, about 2,000, 2,200 active. So, but anybody that would like to join my committee, I would be more than willing to accept you and give me any ideas to get more members to come out.
Because that's the idea behind the membership committee, right?
Yes.
Is number one, it's to deal with membership issues, but number two, it's to figure out ways to grow the membership. So if that's something that you're interested in,
by all means,
out there at home, just hit Matt up.
Right? For sure. I would love it.
Okay. And so then I wanted to ask you, you were on the Canadian committee
Yes.
for 5 or 6 years. You're Canadian.
I'm a Canadian.
I'm Canadian.
And you are.
I don't know what the Canadian committee does or what its
Okay,
purpose is. So can you explain?
Well, there wasn't a lot that we did. We made sure that we had the qualification rules down so that when people were joining, because at that time, it used to be a very elite tournament, the top 50 players.
For the Canadian
For the
Championship.
Canadian Championship, yeah, 50 players for the Canadian Championship. Unfortunately, as time has gone by, because of the lexicon issues, that's another story. But we would make sure the qualifications were there every 2 years, and we made sure that people that signed up, we had a deadline for them as to if they wanted to play or not, a qualification
process.
Yeah, right. So we did that. So I just came off it about last year. And our last year, we did have a bit of controversy or a little bit more action going on because we were actually looking at the idea of having a Collins as well as a NWL, which is now NWL for people that don't know that. TWL is no longer, it's NWL. So we were looking at possibly
basically a split tournament.
A split tournament.
Right? So crowning a Canadian champion of TWL at the time and a Collins champion.
Right.
Or Canadian champion of Collins.
Right. And the logistics weren't quite there, and we were close, but not quite close enough. So hopefully the next Canadian championship, maybe that can come about. So,
well, what I think is interesting about that is Canada has a pretty high uptake in terms of people switching dictionaries over to Collins.
Of course, yes.
More so than the States. And that's an interesting area where kind of the rubber is really meeting the road. Where you're talking about when you make it all TWL and you try to make it a qualification tournament, like literally I qualified 1 year. So that makes it a joke, right? So that's why it makes sense to potentially split that tournament because you have all these high-end shooters over in the other lexicon as well.
Yes.
And, so I think that's probably going to happen someday.
I think it will, right?
You would like to see everybody playing under one dictionary. Whatever dictionary it is.
I've always said that from day one. How many games do you know that has 2 sets of rules? To me, this is like 2 sets of rules. You have the Collins and the NWL. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't care what dictionary it is. Let's just go with one. And then we can get back to having the proper divisions. When I'm playing in a tournament and I'm in the A division, I know there's a problem there because I'm not quite an A player. To say the least.
Gotcha. Well, it's going to be interesting what happens with the lexicon over time. And obviously things continue to evolve and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So anyway, what can you say? All right. So that's the Canadian committee. Then, speaking of Canadians, by the way, you got a nice shout out from Doris B. All right.
Doris,
she says you're looking good.
Thanks, Doris.
And Sharon, who recently moved to London, Ontario, says she misses club. Okay, let's talk about the tournament committee. Now, this is one of NASPA's most active committees.
Amazing.
It's the one that, I don't think he would mind me saying this. It's the one that Chris Cree really holds in high regard because the tournament committee covers some very serious business. So why don't you tell us about your work on the tournament committee, what the tournament committee does?
So when I actually joined the tournament committee, I actually did not know what it entailed. As I got on the committee, I was told that we sanction tournaments. I thought, okay, great. You just make sure that there's no overlapping tournaments or rules you have to follow, and you input it into the NASPA calendar. Then I find out that we also take care of incident reports, and that was something of a surprise. But it's also interesting of how many we do have, and lately even more so because people are bringing them more forth and making sure that nobody gets to the point that it becomes uncomfortable for anybody to play anywhere regarding either cheating or not understanding the rules or following the rules.
Or interpersonal contact.
Exactly. So it's nice that incident reports are put in, and then we sort of kick it in the butt, if you want to call it, depending on what the situation is. And we reach out and we get all sides of the stories to make sure we have our facts, and then as a committee, we make a decision. And I guess another little point out there is we are looking for more people to help us on the committee. We're only 4, and we could use that. We could use help. We have a rotational system there that when we sanction tournaments, when we look at incident reports, we all sit there, we have our input, we ask questions, and we make a decision. If a phone call,
this is really, I mean, this is judgment.
It's huge.
Right? We're talking about you talk about IRs, but we're also talking about suspensions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to make those decisions, and those can be very difficult decisions, and they can certainly be open to criticism. I know I've sometimes criticized decisions coming out of the tournament committee. So it's a position where there's a lot of responsibility, and there can be, you know,
100%.
criticism.
It's a hard thing to make sometimes a decision, and you have to look at it. And when you've only got certain facts, that's what you've got to go on. You can't go on because you know that person or you understand that person. You've got to go on the facts. So it's a hard call, but nonetheless, it's challenging. It's wonderful. And please, anybody that would like to join again, we are looking for people.
I know we're really giving it the hard sell, talking about all the criticism and the serious nature of it. Sometimes I always think we should fill the tournament committee with lawyers. So if you're a lawyer out there and you want to work at NASPA, this would be a good place for you. That's
then we'd never get it done.
That's crazy.
Never get it done.
First of all, you have a lawyer on the tournament committee. Michael Bassett, who's an awesome dude.
Yes, he does.
More lawyers.
No.
So that's the tournament committee. Oh, and the other interesting thing about the tournament committee is sometimes when there's a decision made, then there'll be an appeal of a tournament committee decision.
That's right.
And then they kick it up to the advisory
board. That's right.
Right, which I am on the advisory
board.
So that's sometimes where
we have a sort of a correlation. Yes, definitely.
Crossed a little bit. I can't believe I have to. I shouldn't say it that way. I get to run for the advisory board again this summer. So anybody watching, just prepare to get blasted with emails on how to vote.
Well, there you go. Vote Josh.
Okay, so let's now talk about the final committee that you're on, the rules committee.
Right.
So there's a lot of work that you're doing for NASPA.
Yes.
What is the rules committee? Obviously, they work on the rules. What else can you tell me?
We're trying to clean up the rules, and whenever an incident comes up or something happens that people don't understand the rule, it gets brought to the committee, and we look at it and think, should we reword what we've got there because it might be more gray than black and white? And we look at it, and we're trying to make it more layman to understand it, and it's hard. I mean,
so simplification, clarification, and all that stuff is really important.
And it's hard because we've got a big committee, so everybody's got their input, and when you get all the inputs together and you start thinking, oh yeah, I never thought about that, you might change your mind. So it takes a long time to get a rule changed, and we're trying to make it more user friendly, let's say, as best we can.
Okay,
but it's hard.
Yeah. Can I give you a couple of rules quizzes?
I don't know. It better be easy ones.
So number one, can I track my tiles before I track the tiles I've played before I draw new tiles?
Okay, so that's one of the rules we're actually working on. So right now, no, the rule is you put your word down.
Yes.
You announce your score.
Yes.
You hit the clock.
Yes.
You write down the score.
Yes.
You grab your tiles, and then you can tile track.
Perfect. That's how I do it. I'm within the rules.
Right. And there are people saying, well, what's the big thing?
About what? About doing it out of order.
Out of order, the tile tracking.
Okay.
So there are some good things. I look at it that if you're tile tracking and you haven't pulled your tiles and my opponent made a play, your time is running. And if you choose to tile track and not pull your tiles, it's on your time until I can pull my tiles. Others say, others are saying, well, now by the time I grab my tiles because I'm waiting for you, I can't think.
Oh, yeah. You're going to get into a situation where people are grabbing tiles all over the place.
Exactly. So we're looking at that rule and we're deciding whether or not there might be a change or not.
Okay, interesting. All right, here's the other question.
Okay.
Is there a rule that prevents my opponent from when they're about to play the blank on me and they take the slip and they write down on the slip before they ever put tiles on the board? Because that is one of the worst things you can do in a Scrabble game.
To write down the blank before you put the word down?
Yeah, so here's the way you're supposed to play, okay? This is, not everybody believes this, but there is a good number of people, if you believe this, throw it in the comments. But the way it's supposed to work is, I play my bingo, you can see the blank on the board, then I go and grab the slip, I write it down, I show it to you, and then I go through my
Your other process, the other
the
steps. Okay.
completion, right? There are people who don't do that. The first thing they do is they grab that slip and they're ready to go. Now, they write down a letter. They haven't even played a blank on the board yet. There's nothing to designate.
But then again, why does it bother you? What's the big
There are
thing?
a lot of people who are bothered, and I just want to put my face to this. I think the protocol should be.
That's your thing.
Correct.
Okay, so that's your little pet peeve. Well, I don't actually, to be honest, I don't know if there's actually a rule on that. I can't remember if there is. And if there is, I'll have to take a look at it. But I actually don't see anything wrong with writing the blank down and then putting my word down.
Oh, my God.
What is the problem?
All right, we're in a lot of trouble, folks. Because the worst thing you can do is
Why?
I'm playing against you, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I've got a lead or you've got a
Okay.
small lead or whatever. And then you reach for that slip and it's like, oh, my
But you're
God.
talking about when it's on your turn, right? Not on your
No,
turn.
on your turn.
Okay, so it's on my turn and I get the blank.
Yeah.
I write it down and then I put the word down. What's the
That
big
is
thing?
out of order.
No,
Okay.
no, I don't think so.
You failed. You
I
failed
failed
the quiz.
I failed that quiz. Okay.
Okay, so that is rules committee.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about something else. This is
Okay.
something that has come up. You talked about sometimes there are a group of people from club who go out for drinks after Scrabble Club,
right.
a drink usually. I
Yeah.
don't want to say drinks. And there are other Scrabble get-togethers in this sort of Toronto area. And I've heard you say on a number of occasions that you want to get on the committee, yet another committee. You want to get on the committee that decides where nationals is going to be. So
Okay.
tell me about that.
So let me tell you a couple things. When I complain about something, I can't complain about it unless I get myself involved.
Oh,
So-
that's a good policy.
So to me, I want to get involved in the choosing of our nationals because I'm complaining about it too much. And the problem is that it's North American Scrabble Players Association, but it seems to be always in the U.S. So it's not called U.S. Scrabble Players Association.
Right.
So why
okay.
do we not have it in Canada?
So
There's
you
gotta
want to
be
have
some-
a nationals in Canada,
Of course I do.
and that would happen in Toronto.
Not necessarily Toronto. It could be down east. It could be west. Could be in Calgary. What's wrong with down east? Halifax, Shediac. They'd be more than willing to take us on. Do they have the space? I don't know. But I'll be honest, it's getting costly to be out there. Let's be honest. So if I'm going to complain that it's too much, then I need to be put.
So one of the
Yeah,
things that you
of
want to
course.
think about is possibly doing the nationals in Canada.
Of course.
Shout that out in the comments if you think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Number two is the cost structure. You were talking about like the hotel cost
The
or
hotel.
the entry fee cost. What are we
I
talking
mean,
about?
the entry fee I'm okay with because it is what it is. But the cost of the hotel, on top of the fact that if you're Canadian going to the US, it's another 25% more for us when we go over.
Yeah, it's
Especially
more
at the
like
dollar.
35%.
It's 35%. Yeah, look at the dollar. So when something is $160 American, it's going to cost me $210 on top of that, et cetera. So it's a lot of money for us. But it would be easier for the Americans to come to Canada because they would make money because it's less money for them.
That's what
That's-
Brian McDonald just said.
There
It's
you
cheaper
go,
for
see?
Americans to travel here
That's
too.
right.
James Curley wants it in Ottawa because his sister-in-law lives there.
Okay.
Get ready to
I'm
pay a
with-
commuter fee there, James.
But I'm
And
good with that. There's so many other places. that we
Heidi's
can
good
look.
with Ottawa as well, shockingly.
I
Okay, so we like that idea. And you think the idea of maybe going with a little more affordable hotel,
Yes.
if it's possible.
If it's
right?
possible. I mean,
part of the thing is how much space.
you
is
need a convention
required,
center, et cetera.
right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't seen many Motel 6s with 40,000 square feet
Yeah.
to run
Okay.
nationals.
Fair enough.
But
Fair enough.
I think,
But-
maybe there's some research or whatever, right?
And if we can try to be on it on top of it where we're booking 2 and 3 years in advance, maybe we can get a better deal.
That's
I don't know.
interesting.
I don't
too.
know. Maybe my Italian blood might push them a little if they get me on there. So, I'm going to have to talk to
Okay, well, I think these are reasonable situations. And I think that committee is, actually, I don't even know. That committee is mostly, I think, John and Chris,
yes, and
probably Art.
Art. Yeah, I think that's it. And that's why I've tried to talk to Chris and John. I told them, and I got to reach out to Art and get him to get me on there. So,
I see. Well, I look forward to that. I think
because I need to
think
be on
that would
another
be
committee. I don't have
a
enough
good
committees.
addition. I actually heard that John and Chris were supposed to meet in, I want to say, North Carolina. That could be wrong. No, not North Carolina. Somewhere down the states
Okay.
between the two places. And
Okay.
they were going to have a good deep think and plan some stuff about NASC.
But they didn't
And
invite
then
me.
the meeting didn't happen.
But they didn't invite me.
Well, anyway, we also know that there was a kind of a scheduling deal this year that happened.
Yeah.
So the idea of looking forward and planning dates ahead of time does make some sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's interesting.
There
I
you
would
go.
look forward to seeing
And
you
I'm actually
committee.
another thought. Why July and August? Those are most expensive times of the year because people are off.
Well, I think there's a good reason.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's
That reason I don't
because kids are off school,
Right.
right? And teachers are
Okay.
not teaching. I think we have a significant. Well,
Might
you would
be,
know.
okay.
You're the membership committee
I
chair.
don't know them all personally.
But I think we have a significant number of teachers within our player group.
Yeah. Okay.
And summer is the time when I think people can travel. It's easier to drive long distances in the
Okay.
summer. So
Maybe that's
don't
it.
know.
Okay. I'm just thinking because that is
what
most
would you
expensive.
do if you did it in the winter? it
No,
could be
but like
trouble.
maybe June, like July and August is more expensive, I would think. So maybe June or September. I don't know.
I see.
Just a thought.
Well, this is the key. It's some new thinking.
You need to think outside
And
the
pushing
box.
on pre-established
Thinking outside the box.
opinion. Okay. So let's get it.
That's
I've
good.
got a final question for you.
Another one.
Oh, and Tom Chang says Jason and Sue run a nice one in Niagara Falls.
There you
Maybe
go.
Niagara Falls
There you go.
could host a match.
There you go. Exactly. See?
Sounds pretty good to me.
Okay.
Who knows? Let's just not make it Collins only.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. You got any tournaments coming up?
Yeah.
What are your immediate plans?
I'm going to Cambridge May. Which one Carl's running? Oh, Brantford.
Brantford, Ontario.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then
Cambridge
Albany.
sounds like you're
Yeah,
going
no,
overseas.
No. And going to Albany in July. So right now, those are on
Albany
my.
in July.
Yeah.
I believe I will see you there. I think
All right.
I
Perfect.
may be co-running that tournament.
Okay.
Got to get back to it now. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to close the show now
Okay.
with a couple of features. One is tournaments that are coming up over the next few weeks.
Okay.
So I want to encourage people to check out these tournaments. We've got Boston coming up in about 2 weeks.
Oh, great.
That roster is really expanding
Yeah.
nicely. That's being run by the Judys, and Bradley
All right.
Whitmarsh, I think, is involved. And anyway, that's going to be a really nice tournament. Also, that same long week, no, I don't know that it's a long weekend, but the same weekend,
Oh,
we've got a big tournament in Houston cooking and a big tournament in Knoxville, Tennessee. Have
Oh,
you ever
wow.
played in Tennessee?
no, I haven't. Have you been?
No.
Well,
I
there
want
you
to go to that Knoxville, Tennessee tournament, but
Okay.
I don't think I can get there this year.
Okay.
I want to go see the anyway, doesn't matter. A couple of players I know from Tennessee.
You want to go?
The Durbin brothers.
Okay.
Harry and Larry Durbin.
Oh, yes.
That's
yes.
who I want to go see in Tennessee. Okay. Then we have the following week. There's a tournament. This, I think, is the one that's run by David Pleonsky. This is a fundraiser for literacy happening in Danville, Illinois. We've got
Okay.
another Canadian tournament
Winnipeg,
coming up
yeah.
the week after, Winnipeg. That always attracts,
Yep.
I don't know how many people. 40 people, 50 people, something
I
like
actually
that.
don't know. I've never been out that way, so
Yeah, neither have I. And so much for your
my Canadian tour. That's why we need the nationals here.
and we've also got Oklahoma City. So
Awesome.
if Joe Gatz is out there watching, God, did I get that name right? I think so. If Joe Gatz is watching, he's running his first tournament
Oh, awesome.
as a director
Good.
in Oklahoma. So we wish him all the best. And I
All the
want to
best.
say, get out there and support your local directors because they're working hard for you.
Awesome.
Now, we're going to get to my favorite part of the show, and that is Scrabble birthdays. When's your birthday, by the way?
I'm giving
I'm
everybody
not
a
asking
holiday.
your birth date. What is your birthday?
Birthday.
Yeah.
The 5th.
Of?
August. I was telling you, I'm going to give everybody a day
Oh,
off
yeah.
that day. It's on the civic holiday, so everybody gets a day off.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
My gift to you.
Okay. So here's what we're doing for the birthdays. We are doing a double cohort this week.
Okay.
Do you know what that means?
Yes and no.
All right. So for quite a while now, people have been telling me, don't do birthdays that have already happened because people don't care as soon as it's not their birthday anymore. Which
So-
I don't know if that's true, but
Depends on the timeline. How's that sound?
yeah. So all the time
Yeah.
when I've been doing birthdays, I've been looking back at the past week to wish them
Right.
a happy birthday. And people said, well, you got to try looking forward.
Got it.
All right. In these troubled times, you've got to look to the future. So that's what we're going to do tonight.
Okay.
But the double cohort means we got to look at last week. Those people who were all done with their birthdays.
Okay, and all this week.
And
Wow.
coming up. So
that's a long list.
Here we go. If you know who they are, you can.
I'm going to shout out to
you
them.
can say happy birthday. All right. Happy birthday to Sharon Jansen.
You, Sharon. Yes, yes.
To Ryan Omniscient.
Okay.
Happy birthday. Philip Edwin. Annie Atkins. There's another Josh.
I know that.
Well, there are two Joshes on this list.
That's Josh.
Well, there's Josh Sokol,
right,
who I call Josh Jr.
Right.
And then there's Josh Castellano. Do you know what his nickname is?
No.
Other Josh.
Other Josh. That's a good one.
Okay. Then we've got a name that, quite honestly, I'm going to get wrong, but I think it's Akin Fomisoye.
Wow.
Io.
Mouthful.
We've got Kristen Chu.
Huge Kristen, yes.
Big shout out to Karen Richards, the previously mentioned Josh Sokol, Joey Malik, and Heather Steffi. That covers us for one cohort. So now let's move forward. By the way, Seth Lipkin just joined. Seth, we did a whole thing on Ulu. You're going to have to go back and watch once it's set up. Mad with anyway. Oh, I love you, There was a
Seth.
little bit of controversy.
Seth,
so Seth,
I still love you. I still love you.
Okay, here are the birthdays for the upcoming week. We've got Lila Sanina.
Oh, yes. Happy birthday, Lila. Yes.
We've got Manoy Pensari. We've got Charles DuPont.
Okay.
Well, I never see at tournaments, but he's helped me out with my fantasy football at times.
Okay.
Brad Robbins.
Oh, right. Happy birthday.
Nick
Brad.
Ball, who we talked about in the early part of the show, 1941 rated. Sean Kirkham.
Yeah.
Valerie Huber. I think she's.
Yes, I know Valerie.
Or Valeria.
Valeria.
Huber.
Yeah.
Is she from the Ottawa area?
Yes, she. Yeah, Ottawa or. Yes, I know her. I do know. I can't remember.
I could be wrong.
I was thinking Oshawa, but no, okay.
Maybe it's Oshawa.
I thought it was Oshawa, maybe.
Matthew Oyang, who hasn't been on the tournament scene for a while, but I ran into on the subway last week. So I thought I would shout him out here. Jerry Lerman. Do you know Jerry?
I know the name. I don't.
Oh, okay. Jerry's a super nice dude. I've only met him a couple times. Richard Spence, Hassan Benarshed, Stanley Ubidi. I think that's a U. And Stefan Fatsis.
Happy birthday, Stefan. Yes, it's been a while. Happy birthday.
Big one. Okay. I want to thank everybody who has watched the show. And we're going to be back next week, or I'm going to be back.
With someone.
I want to thank my very special guest, Matt.
Thank you. It was awesome.
For being on the show.
It was a lot of fun.
Let's look out for more Scrabble headlines this coming week.
All right.
And like I said before, support your local directors. They're working hard for you.
That's right.
Thanks so much, everybody.
And bingos to everybody.
That's good.
Bingos
That's
to
a good
everybody.
sign off line.
Yeah.
So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next